Welcome into Chicago Bears Now. I am Harrison Graham. In just a few minutes, we'll get into some Tariq Cohen replacements, cover the unfortunate news of his torn ACL. But first, got to hit on this real quick. Matt Nagy has made it official. Nick Foles will start at quarterback in Week 4 after saving the day against the Atlanta Falcons. Played really well after Nagy benched Mitchell Trubisky. And honestly, this was a no-brainer, right? Like, you look at the two side-by-side in that game against the Falcons. Trubisky really struggled to throw the ball down the field, threw that really bad interception early in the third quarter. Nick Foles gave him a huge lift, threw 3 touchdowns. Really could have been 5 as Anthony Miller dropped an easy one, and Allen Robinson dropped a jump ball as well that ended up getting intercepted. That was his only interception. It wouldn't surprise me if there's some back and forth between these two quarterbacks throughout the season based on Foles' history, but this is the right move for now. Nick Foles earns the opportunity to be the starter in Chicago. Now let's get to this as well. Tariq Cohen, the update is he is out for the season. The MRI this morning did confirm that the Bears running back has torn his ACL. He's heading to IR. It will be the end of his season for Tariq Cohen, which is a bummer, right? Because the Bears just extended him. I saw his burst come back this season after a disappointing 2019 frame, if we're being honest. And that stinks, man. I'm glad he's under contract. I'm glad he'll be back for another 3 years, but he was averaging 6 yards a touch this year. Good in the run game, good in the receiving game. I actually thought they should have gotten him more involved first few weeks of the season here, but he's been really solid early on. Looked like the player we saw in 2017 and in 2018, much better than we saw in 2019. And like I said, it's a bummer for everyone involved because the Bears just committed some money to Tariq Cohen. The good news about him tearing an ACL, which there's not a lot, is that it happened early in the season, which means he should be ready to go by the time training camp rolls around next year, but I would expect surgery very, very soon for Cohen, and like I said, his season is over. Before we get to some replacements, what is your one-word reaction to Tariq Cohen's injury, tearing his ACL? What is your one-word reaction to the Bears losing their kind of do-it-all running back for the season? I'll make this the pinned comment on today's video. You guys can reply right there. So Tariq Cohen is out for the season. I put together some names of some running backs that the Bears could take a look at to replace Cohen for the rest of this upcoming season. And this first guy we're going to talk about is my favorite option, Matt Breida of the Miami Dolphins, who Miami traded for from San Francisco this offseason. I think fits the mold of exactly what you want to replace Cohen. Elite speed, good in the receiving game, good change of pace back in the running game as well. And for whatever reason, Miami has not used him. They've turned to Myles Gaskin as their main running back, and Jordan Howard's their kind of short yardage running back. They've only given him 15 carries overall this year, and I think he only has a couple of catches so far in Miami. I'm pretty surprised that he has not gotten more involved because you look at his career numbers, this is an explosive change of pace back. Almost 5 yards per carry, almost 2,000 rushing yards in just 3 seasons before this as a kind of a third down back. That's good. That's good explosion there. That's good production. And he's a good receiving back as well. Has 4 receiving touchdowns in his career also. I think he is the most ideal option out there for a guy that could replace Tariq Cohen. And he's in a contract year. He'll be a free agent next year. So it's not like he's taken over for Cohen long term. You just let him go this offseason. So I put this trade together. And again, assuming the Dolphins would be willing to trade him, but they're not using him. Gaskin's their guy. So how about a 6th round pick for Matt Breida? Who says no? I think that it would make sense for the Bears, and if the Dolphins want to continue to compile some picks for 2021, it makes sense for them as well. I'm typing neither of these teams, but I think if one team were to say no, it would be the Dolphins. But if I'm the Bears, if I can get Matt Breida for a 6th-round pick, I think it would make a whole lot of sense. So D for the Dolphins, B for the Bears. Let me know who you think says no. And if you want to represent Tariq Cohen and be positive about him, get his jersey or any Chicago Bears jersey at chatsports.com/Bears jerseys. Lots to pick from. We have Nick Foles jerseys available if you want to represent QB1. David Montgomery, who obviously has an even bigger role now. We've got his jersey as well. All of the major players for the Chicago Bears at chatsports.com/Bears jerseys. You can represent their jersey by going to that link. It'll be in the comments. It'll be in the description. Khalil Mack, Allen Robinson. Click on that link. You can shop today. All of these jerseys available for less than $100. So Matt Breida, my first replacement. How about DeAndre Washington, a player who I liked a lot in Oakland, obviously now Las Vegas, but he's with the Chiefs practice squad now. I was stunned when he didn't make their final roster. Good third down type of back, does everything fairly well, good runner, can break some tackles, good in the receiving game as well. Had some good production as a backup type of back with the Oakland Raiders to start his career there. 7 rushing touchdowns. 2016 was really good as a rookie. The yards per carry weren't there after that, but I thought he improved as a receiving running back as well. I'm pretty stunned that he is not on an active roster. And if you don't want to trade for somebody, go poach a guy like DeAndre Washington, because he is a solid back who knows how to play. Won't take him long to get up to speed. He's a decent pass blocker as well. I like DeAndre Washington quite a bit. I think he could be a decent rotation back for the Chicago Bears. Before we get to our next player here, we got Bears coverage all season long. The Bears are 3-0. You want to subscribe to the fastest growing Bears channel on YouTube, because we're going to continue to plug out videos for you guys. I've been told if you subscribe, they're going to go to 4-0. So hit that big red sub button, subscribe, join Chicago Bears now. It's 100% free. We got videos going up almost every single day. Another practice squad guy I took a look at is Theo Riddick. Doesn't give you much as a rusher, but he's a really good receiving back. Kind of a poor man's Cohen, I would say. And earlier in his career, especially really good. Probably not as explosive anymore. There's a reason he's on a practice squad, but undersized, shifty type of receiving back. And the production's been there as a receiver throughout his career. Over 2,200 receiving yards, 8 yards per catch, 14 touchdowns. That's solid, man. That's real solid. You give this guy 10, 12 snaps a game, check it down to him a couple of times, run a couple screens to him. I think he can give you a little bit of burst. Again, with all these guys, no one's going to completely replace Tariq Cohen by themselves. But can you give a guy that gives you 70% of his production? Like a guy like DeAndre Washington or Theo Riddick could give you that production there. He's on the Raiders practice squad, Washington with the Chiefs. So be curious to see if the Bears make some calls and try to go poach one of these guys. So pick a running back to sign off one of these practice squads. Type DW if you want DeAndre Washington with the Chiefs. Type TR if you want Theo Riddick, who is on the Raiders practice squad. I would probably go with Washington. I think he can do a little bit more. But if you're looking for a stronger receiving option, Theo Riddick would be your guy. In that case, type TR. Now, the more realistic and probably, immediate response to this is from promoting from within, right? Artavis Pierce, currently on the Bears practice squad. We talked about him quite a bit in the offseason. Bears picked him up as a UDFA this year. Honestly, if there was a full offseason, I think he would have had a decent chance to make the roster. Still competed for a final roster spot. He's currently on the practice squad. Look for the Bears to activate Pierce. I'd be fairly surprised if they didn't, unless they do go poach one of these other guys. I like what I saw from him at Oregon State in 2019. Decent receiving ability as well is Pierce, the rookie UDFA. I think he could give you a little bit of something if you were to bring him in here. Obviously, compared to these other guys like a DeAndre Washington, like a Theo Riddick, Artavis Pierce doesn't have the NFL experience. So that is, something you have to weigh in here. But I like this kid. I think he's got some real upside. I'm glad the Bears kept him around. I will be curious to see if they promote him to the active 53-man. Even if they don't, remember, all NFL teams can call up to 2 players per week for game day. I would expect if they don't sign someone this week, Artavis Pierce is one of those 2 guys off the Bears practice squad to be called up for this game. So name a player the Bears should replace Tariq Cohen with. I just went through a few. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Out of all those guys, I'd love to trade for Matt Breida. I think he would fit in this offense beautifully. But let me know what you guys think in the comments section. So you kind of look at the depth chart now. This is what you're sitting with, right? David Montgomery, look for his role to increase even more. He's a good receiving back, by the way. He can take on some of that production that Cohen gives you in the passing game. Cordarrelle Patterson, we've seen him some. I think you might see him even more now. Ryan Nall's played seldomly. Maybe he gets a few more snaps now as he's kind of that bruising RB3 fullback type. Like I mentioned, Artavis Pierce in the practice squad. We'll see if he gets promoted. It's a bummer Cohen is out, but obviously David Montgomery, Cordarrelle Patterson, look at these two guys to get more opportunities, get more reps, get more snaps, especially Montgomery. He might be more of your 3-down type of back now. You know, he's been rotating in as RB1, but coming out on some plays, he might have to take on more work moving forward here. Be curious to see if the Bears continue to get Cordarrelle Patterson some more looks moving forward. I like the opportunities I've seen him get. I'd like to see him a little bit more, maybe use him as a receiver out of the backfield as well. I think you could do some interesting things, run some wheel routes out of the running back position, play Montgomery and Patterson together in 2 running back looks. I think there is a lot of different looks this Bears offense could do, but it's a bummer Tariq Cohen is out for the season because I saw a player who looked like 2018 Tariq Cohen in the few games we saw this year. Hopefully he bounces back, should be ready to go for 2021, but he is out for the season with an ACL injury. Make sure to subscribe. If the Bears replace him, we'll cover it here on Chicago Bears Now.